Welcome back, Lettermen Row listeners, watchers, readers. I'm Jeremy Birmingham. This is another episode of Birminology on Lettermen Row. Today's guest is Ohio State running backs coach Tony Alford, who has had a good couple weeks outside of the fact that you haven't had to go to the office much. Tony, thanks for taking some time. I know that this is a weird period, not just in football, but in human history. How are you adjusting? How have you enjoyed the opportunity to spend the month of March at home for the first time in God knows how long?
Well, yeah, it's obviously different, but obviously prayers go out to everyone who's been affected by this, as far as those who are sick. And I know our nation's going through some stuff right now, and this too shall pass, and we'll stay together and get through this the best that we can. But things are fine, just the daily stuff. Talking to your players, talking to recruits, trying to keep busy. I've gotten beat a lot in Xbox by my kids, and so just been hanging out with my guys, and that's about it.
The Twitter machine also tells us that you've been working on your grill game. What game are you getting your butt kicked in on the Xbox?
They got this game. It's some boxing game. I don't know. I got beat up. I got knocked out about 3 times last night, and we've been playing Madden, college football, the old one. If they can, I guess my kids have figured out how to download it and get up the current roster. So we've been doing stuff, just watching them hanging out.
Has this been harder than like for you guys, the guys that are used to being in the office from 7 a.m. until 8 o'clock at night every day? I mean, obviously, what's harder? Is it being away from your current guys or trying to figure out how to be an at-home dad for the first time in forever?
Well, it's a little bit of both, actually, and my kids obviously are teenagers, so they're not real concerned with hanging out with me. But and I'm kind of probably messing up their routines that they have and like to do. But not being around your guys, you've been accustomed to doing something a certain way for 20 some odd years. So this obviously is new, this extended period. No one's ever experienced this, obviously, and I'm not unique. We're not unique. This is a national deal that people are going through. Not being around your guys, and that's why you try to FaceTime them and get on the phones with them and their parents, and just so you can still have interaction with them and face to face, some sort of face to face interaction with them the best you can.
Generally on this show, Coach, we talk about recruiting, but I mean, I think it's just interesting when you're talking about a group of running backs that is relatively inexperienced. You have the injuries going on with Master Teague and with Marcus Crowley. This was sort of a pivotal spring for your group, right? I mean, to see who could step up and emerge as a leader. Are you still able to do that? Or are you more able to do that because this situation sort of shines a light on who's actually emerging and being the guy in that group?
It does, and it is. You got to be very intentional, and not just me as a coach, but them as individual players have to be very intentional about how they're leading. We have some guys, obviously Master's been injured. Is injured right now, but he's still showing a great amount of leadership within the group as far as reaching out to guys. Steel Chambers the same. I put a lot onto him as far as, him coming up and coming out and being more of a leader and more vocal guy. And you like to do it in group settings, but now you get to see who's actually going to go out and reach out to their teammates and be intentional about reaching out to their teammates and doing that. And, you look at the linebackers and Tuff Borland and Hilliard and Baron Brown. Those guys are very active as far as reaching out to their teammates, but they also have behind them the reputation of playing a lot and having a lot of reps behind them. We don't have that luxury right now. Master's the guy that's the guy that's played the most. So putting a lot on him as far as just reaching out to guys, making sure that they're taking care of their stuff as I am doing as well. But, putting a lot on his plate as far as making sure that he's staying in contact with our group and keeping guys engaged. And I know they talk every day as well. And so that's the best that we can do right now.
That's where, as a recruiter, I mean, you go back here and you look over the years and you see a guy like Master Teague, who coming out of high school was obviously a 4-star ranked guy, but there were a lot of question marks about competition level that he faced in Tennessee and how that would translate to the next level. You look at Steel Chambers and there's a similar question, not necessarily about competition level, but you weren't sure if he was a linebacker or a running back. Is that why it becomes so much more important and has become so much more important for Ohio State as a program to recruit kids that are men, that are leaders of group, as opposed to just someone who can run a 4-4?
Well, it's just like anything else. You can say it's by position, but it's really not. It's about bringing in good people into your locker room, bringing good people into your culture. one of the things that's been established here way before me with Urban and obviously Ryan has taken it on into new heights even. The culture is so unbelievable, and we have great kids in that locker room. And so when you bring someone in, obviously they have to be dynamic football players, but they also have to be dynamic people, leaders within their school, leaders in their communities and families, goal-oriented guys, team guys, unselfish guys. So and you find all of that out during recruiting.
When Ryan Day sat down and did an episode of Birminology back in December, he said that one of the things that they're looking for, we were talking about quarterback recruiting, is somebody who has a dynamic trait, like one exceptional trait, and that leadership and character can be one of those exceptional traits. But if you take away that angle of it, as a running back recruiter, as a coach, what's the one thing in a running back that catches your eye more than anything? Is it just straight line speed? Is it wiggle? What is it?
Well, I think there's a multitude of things, but you better be tough. And I don't care. You can be as fast as you want. You can have lateral quickness. You can have dynamic ball skills. But if you're not tough, you can't play. And I think you find out a lot of that. You can watch film and see some of that, but then you start talking to kids and spending time with them. You start finding out just about how mentally tough they are. College football is hard. It's not easy. There's a lot of work involved. You're going to get pushed to your limits every single day when you come here to Ohio State, and so you better be mentally tough. And so obviously to go along with all those skill sets and the leadership and all the things like that, like I said, you better also be tough.
For your group right now, you obviously have had a successful run here in 2021. We can't talk about that per NCAA rules, but 2020, obviously, there was a ton of conversation around Tony Alford and the Ohio State running back recruiting position.
Is that what it was, conversation?
We'll call it conversation. Some people may call it finger pointing. Some will call it there's a lot of other things we could call it, I think. But you're not immune to what people say. And I know that you have the ability. You guys read the internet in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. You guys are seeing who's saying what. Is there like how hard is that to sit back and watch and people that you don't know take shots at you about things that they don't fully understand? And what have you gained or learned, I guess, from what happened last year?
Well, first of all, everyone's got an opinion, and we signed up for this. No one makes us do this job, and so with that comes criticism. Sometimes there's accolades that come with it. Sometimes there's not, and you deal with it accordingly. But the understanding of people that I don't know don't define who I am,
right? And
they don't define how I feel about me. You just go do the best you can every single day, and like I said, everyone's got an opinion, and they're entitled to their opinions, whether they know what's going on or not. It's up to them. They can, sit behind computers or phones and type whatever they want. For me, and I think for us as a staff, and I'll just talk about coaches, for instance, but you just go do your job the best that you can do it every day. And when something doesn't work, you go back to the drawing board and figure out where was it? Where did it come off the rails, and how do you fix it?
There are some things you can't fix, and there are some things you can. But the idea that you right now ranked as the country's #1 recruiter in the 247 Sports coach rankings, which is obviously somewhat skewed because they don't entirely know who's actually recruiting who. But the idea that a year ago you couldn't recruit and now you're the best recruiter in the country. I mean, but people are still going to find reasons to nitpick because that's what they do. But what is it that, you learned, I guess, the most from last year? What is it a matter of saying, hey, maybe I need to recruit kids who aren't from 2,000 miles away, or is it a matter of I need to do a better job winning parents or grandparents? Like or is there anything that philosophically that changes?
For me, there's nothing that philosophically changed. I'm going to be who I'm going to be. I'm going to get to know people and be as forthright as I can possibly be and honest. I think the dynamics of every situation are different, and every single individual that you recruit, or the dynamics of that situation are different. So to say that there's one thing that you can pinpoint of why you got someone, why you didn't. Those always change. Those are interchangeable. But I would just say, as far as keeping a large pool of guys active,
right,
is critical to do, and I've probably done a better job at that some years than others. But to say there's any one particular thing that you learned, the biggest thing you can say is you can't get caught up. When I say me,
right,
can't get caught up in what everyone's saying outside. And with that, you just, you go to work and just adjust and where you need to adjust and go from there.
Well, I think it's interesting because your arrival at Ohio State back in February of 2015 came on the heels of Stan Drayton departing for the NFL. And Ohio State took a lot of heat for the timing of Stan's departure and how it happened after signing day and how it impacted Mike Weber back then.
Right.
But then you have 5 years later telling kids, hey, if this particular job came open, I would probably take it. And I think in some ways that may have affected you negatively on the recruiting side a year ago. You're being honest and being punished for it in a way. But how do you balance that out? I mean, there is no other option, right?
For me, there's not, and I'm not going to speak for anybody else.
Right.
I mean, everybody does their business. Everybody digs their ditch a different way, I guess. For me, that's how I am. I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to be forthright. And it is what it is. That's who I am. That's how I was raised as a young boy, and I'm 51 years old. And does that mean I'm always right? I didn't say I'm always right. Absolutely not. But I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm going to be as honest as I can possibly be, and go from there. And I know what you're talking about, and I was honest about certain things and that are going on in my life at that particular time. And if someone doesn't respect that, that's on them. But that's just how I function.
What's harder as a coach? Is it building a relationship with a recruit for a long time that you don't offer and who wants to be in your class, or building a recruit and being able to, having to almost break their heart and letting them know, hey, sorry, we can't make it work. Ohio State's an elite program, so not everyone can be there. But is it harder to do that, or is it harder to get close to a kid, have them choose someone else?
Wow, I don't know. It goes back to just relationships that you have with certain people. And some relationships in recruiting, for me at least, have been closer than others, with families, with kids, with grandparents, whomever it may be, and to say which one is harder, Berm, I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. I'll tell you what, it's hard when you don't get when you work hard at anything and you put forth so much effort in anything and it doesn't come to fruition or come out to play out the way that you would have liked or wished. That's it doesn't feel good at all, no matter what.
In this new world of recruiting we live in, those relationships still carry value because you just never know. 4 years later, it could end up paying off because you stayed true to that person and stayed honest with that person. So, I think there's this conception or misconception among fans who follow recruiting and use it sort of as their daily soap opera, which it's a way to keep football in the limelight all year round when it used to be 5 months. That if a kid or their family say, hey, we're going a different direction, that all of a sudden you guys are like, oh, screw you, we're never going to talk to you again.
Yeah, and that may happen sometimes. And with people, I try my hardest not to have that happen. I think especially when you spend a lot of time, when you start recruiting kids that are freshmen, sophomores in high school, now you're talking 3-4 years removed into a relationship. You try to, hopefully those relationships are unconditional.
Right. Meaning
that if it's just because you don't do what I want you to do doesn't mean that relationship is now severed. Now, can you try to have a relationship with every single kid that you recruit forever? No, that's not even realistic. But there's some guys that you do. You get close to them. You get close to their families. And those relationships sometimes can continue to last, forever. And that doesn't mean you're talking all the time, but what it comes back to is if something happens and guys can go back and say, wait a minute now, I have to make a move and do some things. Let's reach back out to these people because we did have a relationship, and sometimes they're still there, sometimes they're not. How do you know? But again, I'm always of the opinion just be as forthright and as honest as you can with kids, and understand that sometimes it may not come out the way you want it to, but that doesn't mean you have to throw a fit and throw a tantrum either.
In your career from Colorado State to Notre Dame to Ohio State, what is the one recruiting win? Obviously, you can't count 2021 if there's any of those involved. So what's the one recruiting win that you look back and go, holy crap, I can't believe that one happened?
Oh, there's, probably Lewis Nix. He was a young man with Jacksonville Range High School, and that would have been 2000, going into the 2010.
2010? Yeah, 2010.
Yeah,
I think.
2010. And, we're at Notre Dame, and we played Stanford on a Saturday night, and we got fired on Monday. And Jack Schwarber, bless his heart, came in and spoke to the staff and told us the news, and said, "But you guys still need to go on the road and recruit."
So you're going on the road as a fired coach, a lame duck coach.
Fired coach and no head coach, and I went down and talked to Lewis Nix on Tuesday. I remember it was on a Tuesday. I spoke with him, and we talked about numerous things. One of the things he said was, I still think Notre Dame would be good for you. And he said, well, what if you're not there? Are you going to be there? And I said, I have no idea. And I said, we just got released yesterday. I don't know what's going on. And he said, what do you think you're going to be there? And I said, Lewis, once again, I don't know. Well, if you're at school X, and it wasn't Notre Dame, do you still think Notre Dame would be good for me, or would you recruit me where you're at? I said, well, I'll recruit you wherever I'm at, but I still think Notre Dame would be a great place for you in particularly. Whether I'm there or not, and rather I recruit you somewhere, I think that Notre Dame would be a great place for you, and just under your circumstances. And about later on that night, he called me up and committed and never wavered. And I think, and to him, a lot of it was like he just, he appreciated the honesty and felt that I was telling him the truth, and he felt that as well. And so I'd probably be the one.
And you got rehired.
I did.
So it worked out for everyone.
It did.
Is there anything, and I'm going to ask you to tread carefully here. Is there anything like way different about working with Ryan Day than Urban Meyer? What's the one thing that you're like, this is a total, because obviously Ryan came in and took over for a program that was very well in place, but what's the one thing that makes it different?
I don't know. I just, I think everyone leads in their own way, and both of them are unbelievable leaders and great people and men. And the one constant is you're expected to be excellent here in everything that you do, and that's how it should be. That's how it's continued. That culture's been built, and now how you approach those two things may be a little different, but make no bones about it. It's we're gonna win in every aspect of our players' lives. We're gonna win in every aspect of our program, so that hasn't changed. But really, to say how is it drastically different? No, everybody's pushing to be the best that we can be, and Ryan does a great job, just like Urban did, as far as pushing buttons and pushing guys, and knowing his people, and knowing his coaches, and knowing his players, and knowing when and where to push those buttons for each particular person. That's a sign of a great leader, and they both did that.
Well, look, Coach, I appreciate you taking time. It's a beautiful Sunday outside. Get outside and go, I don't know, throw some Frisbees or grill some steaks. It's really windy out, so don't go out there too far, and that smoke can blow all over the place. But I know that you've had this few cigar smokes in the last few days. So,
well, I tell you what, Berm, I want to tell you, I appreciate you and Austin for the work that you guys do, and your professionalism that you've always afforded me has been outstanding. I've told you that before, and so I know publicly I want to tell you how much I personally appreciate your professionalism, Austin's as well. and how you guys have personally treated me individually. So I probably want to tell you thank you for that.
No problem, Coach. Thanks so much for taking some time. This has been Birminology. That's Tony Alford, Ohio State's running backs coach. I'm Jeremy Birmingham.
Go Bucks.
We'll talk to you guys next time. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe below to get the latest videos from Lettermen Row.
We got Letterman Live, we've got the practice report, we got rapid reaction. Hey, and you know we got Buckeye IQ with Zach Bourne.
For sure. We got recruiting breakdowns with Berm. We got whatever you need. Ohio State football and Ohio State athletics, we've got you covered here at Lettermen Row.